Good morning, folks. Welcome to Coffee with Artists. My name is Rachel Wilkins. I am your host this morning. Delighted to be joined by my wonderful guest, Andrew Diaz, who's joining us at the crack of dawn in California this morning. Andrew, thank you for getting up early to come and hang out with me this morning.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's late for me, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, actually, just before we jumped on air, Andrew was telling me that his normal day is getting up at 4 a.m., which...
Well, starting at 4. Yeah, I'd be having lunch right now, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's only one 4 o'clock in my day, and it's not a.m. That's for sure.
You're not working?
No, definitely not. Although my cat sometimes has other plans for me, so yeah.
That's good.
So you are a mixed media artist. We met a couple of years ago in San Diego. Had the pleasure of keeping up with your work over the years. For anybody who's not seen your work and your particular style, how would you describe it?
Well, it first started I'd say back in my first apartment. When you don't have much. I had an IKEA desk, which I thought was awesome, so I was gonna build around that, and that was gonna be my style for it. And then I had a chair, and then I think I had a bed, and that was it. And it was 2005, I believe. 2005, I believe. And I don't know. I was very depressed, and I decided that, and I didn't have anybody to talk to, really. You don't want to bog your friends down with too much of this stuff. So I just decided to draw, and I got my pencils out and my paper, and I drew this one piece that meant a lot to me, and it was actually foreshadowing what was really affecting me at the time. So I just started to draw, and then I got more involved in different styles, and I don't know. I like the idea of, and I'm not knocking any other mediums. I mean, I like all mediums, but I like the challenge of doing something in ink or pencil, or I can't paint to save my life, but I'll try. And then bringing in photos and text and poetry or whatever it is, and just kind of mashing it together and see what comes out. I think, at least for me, it provides a more richer experience and piece, for myself at least. So I like to grab from different mediums all the time.
I can 100% relate to that, and I share your your enthusiasm for a variety of different mediums. And I don't think you should say or believe that you can't paint. You just paint and express yourself in your individual and unique way.
Right.
Just because there's these kind of constructs around the art world that this is what an artist creates like, it's not necessary. I think that it's old and it's tired, and it's something that we need to move on from. You don't have to be classically trained to be
right.
a good artist, a good creator.
I had I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, you, on that note, I actually read that you had a particular instructor while you were at art school who kind of played some of these things down. Tell us about that.
Well, she was a beautiful woman. I mean, beautiful woman, and at least on the technical side, Jesus, I mean, she was on point. She could draw anything, and I can't remember her name right now, but I remember, because I'm always early. Like I said, I'm at least an hour early at work, so I can work on some artwork or just work on anything. And I remember showing up to class early, and I was trying to study Photoshop at the time, and do some just mess around with it and try to get a little more trained in it and more experience with Photoshop. And I was doodling or something. I did a piece, or I don't know what it was, but I had made a comment that she's, "Oh, what are you doing?" or something like that. I said, "Oh, I was working on Photoshop." She goes, "Well, that's sort of lewd." She's like, "Well, that's not really art now, is it?" And I didn't take offense to it, but I was just like, well, I don't know. For me, it's I don't care if it's drawing with ketchup or on a napkin or writing a haiku or anything. If it's the smallest thing, as long as you're expressing yourself. And for me, that's always been art, and that's always touched me. So I use art as a just to express and move on from what I'm experiencing. So when she said that, it wasn't a challenge for me, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try to see if I can challenge that in a way, and and grab from any mediums and see what happens and see if I can work with that. So it was sort of, I won't say she was being a little snobby or uppity. I don't want to mean any disrespect to her, but I think as long as you're expressing yourself, anything can be art, anything. And so I don't want to be like, if you're just classically trained in sculpture or portraits or whatever it is, that's fine. But I think as long as you're expressing yourself, that's what's important. So when she sort of put down one medium in favor of what she was used to, I was like, well, I'm gonna see if I can work with that, and I'm gonna challenge that, and a challenge for myself, not to prove her wrong or anything. And at least for me personally, I think I've been quite successful in that.
I think it's reckless, especially of educators, and no offense to this particular teacher, her intentions may have been good, but I think it's reckless as an educator or as anybody around the arts, critic, whatever you want to call yourself, to label something as not really art. Like, who is anybody to define what is not really art? Like, if we go back to, the cavemen putting hieroglyphics on the wall was art.
Yeah.
The Renaissance painters was art. Andy Warhol, like, these are all very different forms of expression. We had a sculptor, Gino Miles, on a couple of weeks ago, and you did? You caught that up?
Of course.
So he was sharing that, he was trained at the Florence Academy of Art in sculpture, right? But when he got there, he said he was almost thrown out because he couldn't draw a stick figure. Like, that's not his expression. Now he's, pretty famous sculptor today.
So, it was the 400,000 thing that he was working on, so I'm like, for me, like I said, when she said that, it was sort of like, at least in terms of artists, you always struggle at the beginning. At least I think the first struggle is always trying to find your voice.
Yeah.
And, so you, at some point you might conquer that, and then you move on to finding what medium works best for you. And then you move on to, whatever the next step is for you. And then hopefully exposing yourself more and more, and getting your name out there and trying to build a career out of it. So when she said that, I was sort of like, do you not remember where you came from? You came from being alone, and so you should support any medium. You should support at least any attempt at trying to express yourself. So her intentions weren't bad. I know that. I know she came from the right place, but it was sort of like you build yourself up. You're trying to build yourself up and get noticed, and then when you do get noticed, you kind of sort of pigeonhole yourself and close yourself off, and you're like, okay, we were here, but now we're here, so we don't have to pay attention to those people no more. You know what I mean? Right. So, I mean, I get it.
I'm not sure I do, but
well, I mean, I get what you're coming from. I don't agree with it, but yeah.
So tell me about growing up. You grew up in San Diego. You're born and bred, as you just told me before you jumped on.
Born and bred and buttered. Yeah, you got it.
I mean, San Diego is by far one of my favorite places in this country. Beautiful, perfect temperature every day. Gorgeous weather, gorgeous beaches, beautiful people, good food. Was that a reality, or did you have a different experience growing up there?
No, we appreciate you saying that, and we welcome you at any time. Don't look right now; it's a little muggy.
No.
I'll bring out the sunshine later. I'll step outside and everything will go back.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. God, I always go off on a tangent, but I don't know. I mean, which is funny that you bring that up, because for me, what's always been peaceful for me, or what I've always enjoyed, is I'm not maybe I don't belong here. Is I love overcast. I love dark gray overcast, and that always gets me in the mood to create. And I love San Diego. San Diego will always be my home. But no, it's I don't know. It could be anywhere. I always figure. I hate cliches, but they say home is where the heart is. And for me, my home is, well, at least now my home is my children, but it can be anywhere. And I love San Diego very much. And, I did use those surroundings, but I mean, for me, home is always, four walls and a roof. So, yeah, I love San Diego very much. And it will always be home, but It doesn't really matter where I am, but yeah, I did use my surroundings, of course, and they were a lot of inspiration. Going to the beaches a lot. I love the beach. I love the beach, and I don't know. I love the beach at night though. I like nighttime. I very much like nighttime. I like quiet, even though I talk a lot. I love quiet, which is a bit ironic. Anyway,
I love that you said, you like the kind of cloudy, overcast days, and I
I
think that,
love it.
I mean, certainly for me, because I love a sunny day, but I also, I do enjoy like a rainy day where you've got an excuse to not leave the house. But I grew up in that climate. Like I grew up in rain, cloudy, overcast in England. So the sun was a novelty. So, for
Is it
me, I gravitate towards that. Would I enjoy it if it was every single day? I don't know. I think we like change. We like, a little bit of, some seasonal change and things to kind of inspire us.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's just I don't know if it's I don't know if it's being bipolar had anything to do with it, but just I love the moody.
Mm.
Uh, I don't want to be it all the time. I mean, who does? But yeah, I love overcast. It's it's sort of like a medium. It's not sunny, it's not raining, but it's overcast. I don't know. It's always got me to think. I remember I was in eighth grade eighth grade math class. Peace, Mr. Myrick. But I remember not paying attention to the lesson, and I just stared out to my left and I looked outside, and it was just overcast, and I was like, yeah, I dig that. So I don't know. It's always been my favorite.
So let's talk a little bit about your diagnosis. It was not too long
Sure.
ago that you were diagnosed as bipolar.
Yeah.
One of your works specifically, you said had a big involvement in your discovery. It was a piece called "Mr. Constructed and the Big Idea."
Yeah.
You said this was kind of revelatory to you in
Oh man.
understanding your mental health. Take us through that journey.
Yeah. It's God. It's when things come together or things just happen. It's just like sometimes it can just I'll say put you in your place, but just snap you into. And this is order of events like you invited me on this show, which was, oh my God, I couldn't stop smiling at work. And then yesterday, I'll answer your question. I mean, I go roundabout.
That's all right. We
and
have an hour. We're good.
Yesterday, I got an email off of my website from this artist that does I'll say small time, but they do a zine, and she asked, or I'm sorry, he asked to have that piece included in their zine, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? First coffee with artists, and then now this. You're asking, especially that piece. That was the piece that I was referencing to when I was in my first apartment. I wasn't diagnosed at the time. I had gone through a lot of manic and depressive episodes and a lot of close calls. So I was in my apartment. I drew this piece, Mr. Constructed and the Big Idea. And I didn't sit down and say, hey, I'm gonna draw on this subject matter. I was just drawing to get this out. When I was young and I was having an episode. I mean, I was young. I remember I was in kindergarten and I was having a manic episode under the kitchen table. We had just moved and I was holding a bunch of silverware in my hands. My sister thought it was funny, but she didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know what was going on, and I was just cursing my brains out. I was saying every curse word I could think of because the movement was my head was the thoughts were just overlapping, and it creates this very uneasy, stressful and scary emotion, because you don't know what to do with it. So the only way I could ease the pain was just to rock myself back and forth. As a child, I was, so when I was in my apartment, I was like, I don't know what to do with this depression. So what do? I don't know what's going on. Why do I don't just feel sad. I feel something more, and it doesn't feel right. So I drew this piece, and Mr. Constructed is this, I'll say alter ego, but it's half of him is how I really am, how you could see me either being sad and depressed. And the other half is this sort of this big mask that you wear to cover up how you're really feeling. You know, I remember several times an old coworker of mine named Anthony when I used to work for Coca-Cola, and I swear to God, I thought I was putting on a good face. And he asked if I was all right. I was like, yeah, I'm all right. Why do I not seem right? He goes, no, dude, you don't seem all right. So I still do it to this day. I still put on a happy face when I don't want to talk to anybody or just certain people. You know, you don't. I don't want them to ask. You know, it's which is kind of counterproductive because in order to get help, you have to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mr. Constructor was one side was a real side, and the other side was a mask and a fake persona that you would put on. So people would just think that you were normal. And behind him was the in my mind, my creative mind, what I refer to as engineered city. And half of that is one of my favorite artists. God, I remember in that apartment was Frederica Lempica, and I just love her buildings. I love her buildings. I love her artwork. And I sort of took her style of that and made these cities, and these cities were my mind, and half of them were these decaying, depressive cities that were crumbling, and because they didn't have the foundation anymore, they didn't have the strength to keep themselves up anymore. And the other side were these kind of abnormal, kind of malformed, buildings that were the manic side, because like a plant just grows how it wants to grow, whatever its DNA is, and so that represented both sides, the manic and the bipolar side. So that was sort of me in front of this city saying, this is who I am. And if you want to know who I am or understand what I'm experiencing, then, you just got to take a little bit further. But yeah, that piece was, and again, that was 3 years before I was diagnosed. So when I look back at it, and there was no Photoshop or nothing at that time, it was just, I might've done a little contrast fixing and brightness fixing, but when I look back at it, that was probably one of the most important pieces I've ever done, and I think will always be, because I was my mind was telling me my mind was telling me what was wrong, but I didn't know. And so which tends to happen a lot in my pieces. I just finished my my last collection, and my one of my best friends, Sam, had noticed something in it, and he said, "Dude, that's you." And I'm like, "Oh my God!" Sometimes I draw or compose certain things a certain way, and I'm like, it's sort of my mind telling me, "Go in this direction. It'll make sense later." So I mean, yeah, that piece was. I was sort of diagnosing myself before I was diagnosed. So
Wow.
yeah.
How did it feel to have somebody point that out to you? And because when we're immersed in our art, sometimes we don't see the bigger picture. We're so
Yeah.
involved in the intricacies and the nuances and the detail. How did it feel for somebody to see you?
Well, God, don't. I'm trying not to get emotional. Very emotional. It's ironic that I'm gonna jump a little bit, but the one person that when you go through a divorce, it's very hard, obviously, and I'm sort of still recovering from that. And that was years ago. It was in 2016 when it was finalized, 13 when it went bad. But the one person that was responsible for at least me being mainly being diagnosed was my ex-wife. She I remember we were together somewhere, and she said I had to see a therapist. And I said, "Well, why?" And she goes, "Well, you're always angry when you talk about your father, as he was a very bad man, but she goes, you're always talking about him, and if you don't go see it, then we're through." And I said, "Okay, well, I loved her very much, and I still do, but so I went to see a therapist, and I was diagnosed, and then medication and all that jazz. But a lot of people don't like their exes and talk bad about them, and she may still get on my nerves from time to time, but who doesn't get on everybody's nerves? But I if it wasn't even the direction that I'm going in with my art now, and at least expressing and trying to shed some light on mental illness, I owe her a lot, because if it wasn't for that conversation and that getting me to see a therapist, then I never would have known. I probably would still be having manic or depressive episodes, not knowing what it was, so I having her see that, sort of, to a roundabout way to answer your question, was it meant a lot, because here was somebody that loved you very much enough to say, hey, you need help, something's wrong. And so it meant a lot. It meant a lot for somebody to see that, at least to get the ball rolling in recovery, so.
There must have been a big sense of relief to know that, this is something chemical. This is something
Yeah.
that is not of my own decision. Like, this is something treatable. And I think quite often with mental health, it's not a physical disability. We don't see it on somebody when they walk in the room. Like, how did
Mm.
it feel to be able to recognize that this is something that you can get help for?
I remember, like I said, I was under the table having a manic episode, and I would do that a lot. I would always get on my knees and I would just sit on the carpet or in whatever room I'm in. I would just sway back and forth, because I needed to get this. I needed to get my mind better, and there's a lot of close calls. But art has always just been like I said, even when you're creating something and you might not even be sure of what direction you're going, and you might even not even have the sort of clue on what direction you want to go in or what you want to say. You just want to start drawing or painting or whatever it is. And then later, you're like, okay, well, this sounds like a good direction, or maybe this is what I was trying to say. Yeah, it's been hard, but I'm sorry, can you ask your question again? I kind of.
No, I mean, we were just touching on what the other side looks like, how you feel now that you have an opportunity to have some kind of resolve and like you said, recovery. Like, how does it feel to be on the other side of that, knowing it's something that you can have help for?
Oh, that's where I wanted to go. Yeah, it feels good, I mean, it feels good to know, at least what's wrong, for even a coping, a way to cope with it is whether I'm having a manic episode or a depressive episode. And it's extremely frustrating, because it's not something that, like, you can't, if your tire's flat, you go get it fixed and then it's done. This is not something, or any mental illness, schizophrenia or whatever it is, bipolar disorder, whatever it is, it's not something that's going to be, that can be fixed. It can be treated. So for me, whenever I'm having an episode, and it's extremely frustrating, because you don't, it's chemical,
Mhm.
and you can't get in there and fix it. So I always assign blame to something, or I put something in its, something physical. Like, I'll be like, it's my phone. My phone is I'm gonna put all that pain and angst and frustration and depression. I'm gonna put it in this device, so I can set that device and see it, and it's something I can work on. It's now physical. I can now have a more tactile approach to fixing it. It's frustrating, to know that it's chemical. So, but it's at the same time, like I said, now knowing, I would say for years now, knowing what's the problem is, you can now address a plan to how to combat it. And even if it's not creating artwork, or if it's just talking, I talk with like I said, my best friend Sam all the time. What's going on, and he's always saying pretty much the same thing. It's like, take step day by day. He's always there to listen, and it means a lot. And so being on the other side, it feels good. It's always coming up with a new plan, and starting over, and falling, and getting back up again. But it feels good. It feels good to at least know what direction, or know what's wrong, so you could hopefully have a plan of attack and how to make yourself feel better.
So how would you say your art has changed over that time? If you would you say you've evolved? Do you think
Yes,
you found your
yes,
voice?
yes, tremendously. When I did Mr. Construct and the Big Idea, like I said, I had no idea why I was creating it. I just needed to get out whatever I was feeling. And since then, I still doodle. I still draw on my phone. Like I said, I come ever since that one instructor said that one thing about creating digital art or being on Photoshop. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna create on anything. I don't care what it is. There's two rules that I always go by in creating art, which apply to real life situations too. It's you always work with something and use what you have. Those are I follow that religiously. Like if I'm with my kids and my kids wanted to, I think my daughter wanted a baby girl. Love you. I love my babies. She wanted some Play-Doh or something. We were at a park or something. So I'm like, well, I don't have Play-Doh, baby girl. We'd have to leave. But then if we leave, we're gonna leave the park. So I had a cup of water or a bottle of water and had some dirt. And so we made the right proportion and we made a mud sculpture or something. It's something. It's some way to express. So I'm always doing that. And so trying to take the next plan on how to evolve and again, it's all everything that I always do. I mean, I've done two commission pieces in the last year. I don't do many because I'm always trying to work on myself. Um, Everything always has a purpose. It has to have a purpose. It's just like medication or exercise. Why you exercising? Because you want to lose weight or feel better. Why do I make my artwork? Is to express and hopefully inspire other people to get treatment or feel better about them. At least if anything, just feel better about yourself and get on to the next day. So in terms of evolving, um, every time I do a new collection or a new piece, doesn't have to be a series of anything. It has to have a purpose. Everything has to have a purpose. Uh, I did my bipolar collection because I wanted to express manic and depressive episodes. I did one called the Reconnection collection because for a while I was sort of disconnected from my art. I might have doodled, but I wasn't doing anything of substance, anything with a purpose. So I did that. So when I got divorced and I was homeless for a while, I did a home collection, and which was the main pieces that I won the Conception Excellence of Award, for. And everything has a purpose. It has to have a purpose because I want to get better. I want to heal. And I want to show others that if anything, even if you don't get there, just try. And so I've evolved in the sense that everything I do has to have a purpose, has to have a meaning, or else it doesn't really mean much. I can draw cool stuff all the time, and wow yourself and go, oh wow, that looks cool. What does it mean? Oh, it doesn't mean anything. That's not enough for me. I want to get better and I want to stay better, and I want to show the kids that hey, at least if I don't make it I'm not even concerned with making it as a big, huge time artist. I just want to feel good, and I want to show others that you can feel good too if you just try. So in terms of evolving, it's just uh, I've gone from just doodling to making a series of collections that are addressing a specific problem, whether it's homelessness or mental illness or reconnecting with your artwork. Family. I did a family collection. I wanted to honor my marriage and my children and express what it feels like to have to leave your children um, and not be able to see them as much as you can. So everything has a purpose. So that's where my evolving has brought me to, and which is so funny because like I said, first, you contacted me and the person from design contacted me. And even before both of you contact me, I was like, you know what? I got to figure out what my next adventure is going to be. And I was like, you know what? I kind of want to bring Engineered City into, I want to do a more detailed, journey on that, and maybe create a series of stories. I mean, I started 8 drawings about that before anybody contacted me about anything. So I was like, it's just weird that everything's sort of coming together, and I want to create a whole eight-piece series collection about Engineered City, and hopefully tackle mental illness, and help people if I can. I always want to help people. That's what I always want to do. I hope to have a nonprofit someday where you can help mental illness people who deal with mental illness, or even if just help, if you're just having a bad day. That's where I hope to go.
I think there's a lot to be said for putting things out to the universe as well. But these opportunities don't just come about from nothing. Like, you were manifesting them. You were putting out your website. You were, just reaching out, and you put in those little signals out there, and it does come back.
It does. It's amazing. God, this didn't happen. I hope it did, and this is before the pandemic. But somebody from New York had reached out to me, Genuine, of some company, but they asked, they were trying to put together a project that helped, that addressed mental illness, and I did a phone interview to see if you could be a candidate for their project, because they were going to do I don't know, a brochure or something to do with mental illness, a project, and that kind of got stalled. And then like 3 months later, I got contacted again, and that's when I did the phone interview, and they said the project was put on hold. But even the fact that it didn't happen, it meant everything to me that somebody saw my work, and that had to deal with bipolar disorder, about mental illness. It meant everything to me that at least somebody out there in the universe saw my work and said, hey, maybe this guy can help, or help others. And so, that didn't happen, but at least somebody saw it. So yeah, putting yourself out there, you have to try. I mean, it's hard, it's hard. 3 days ago, 3 days ago, I had a really bad depressive episode. I mean, it was bad. It was the worst one I think that I've ever had. And I just didn't want to be around anybody. And I came home, and I showered, and I just took off, and I went to a park, and I just literally just laid in my car for hours, like 3-4 hours, just trying to get through it. But I remember thinking, I was like, you gotta try. You gotta try. You gotta get through this somehow. You have babies. You have two beautiful children that need you. So again, I don't care if it's drawing on a napkin. You gotta express yourself somehow, even if it's just sitting on a couch or in a chair, and you're creating an idea in your head. And if that idea can get you to the next step of opening your eyes, because sometimes that's what it is, sometimes you're so down that, like, I literally have to think, okay, well, I need to get off this couch or this chair, and then I need to move my right foot, and then I need to move the left, and then I need to sit up. Sometimes it's like, it feels like years, because you're so depressed, or manic's a different story. Manic's like a drug you can bottle. Like, it can get you through, like, you can run across country, and it's fun sometimes, but, always knowing that when you're up top, you're going to come, I know you're going to come down, or it'll be the opposite. If you're down, you'll be up, which is what always happens for me. I was in my car for hours, just laying, and just like going through so much pain, and like nobody could help me, because again, I'm in my car and nobody could see me. But what got me through that 3 days ago was, I was like, I need to go somewhere. I need to go somewhere that'll help me. So I went to the street where I lived with my ex-wife and my kids. There's nobody's in the house anymore. Still there, but nobody's there. But at least being on that street, in that environment, with all those memories of walking my kids around the block when they were like little ones, that was the step. That was the idea, that, like, what, at least you're in an environment that held memories, and that was what got me through that. And then next, I opened up my eyes, and I drove, and I came back home, and you got to try. So you always got to try. So whatever it takes, So I'm
Thank
sorry.
No, thank you. So thank you for being so open. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing.
it's hopefully it didn't. I mean, I'm not a mystic or nothing, but hopefully anything I say can, if anybody's there and struggling, like struggling, if you know what struggle is, and I'm not special in any way in terms of that way, like I'm more important than somebody else, but um, I remember Steven Soderbergh was accepting an Academy Award for Best Director for Traffic, I believe. I
Mm.
always remember this. This meant so much to me. God, it's still on YouTube, but it's one of my favorites. And I was still living at home with my dad and my sister, I believe, at the time. And he came on stage and he accepted this award. And he said, I'm going to thank everybody in person that had to do with this film later. But I want to. This award goes out to anybody that can create, whether it's a poem, whether it's a dance, whether it's whatever, whether it's a drawing. This goes out to anybody who creates. And I'm paraphrasing, but I remember sitting there on the couch going, these are just words, but they mean so much more. They mean so much more, and that got me to go, you know what? If this big shot, this $1 million movies is reaching out to me and to others to at least want to take that next step and go, hey, I got there. And I'm not talking a monetary success. Success is measured in different ways, and for me, my success is just expressing and feeling good. If I can get on to the next day, that's a success. If I can get from being down to, like, now since this pandemic, I used to see my kids not as often as I would like. It'd be 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, and then I'd have them over one day a night. But if I can get to, I'm going to pick up my kids Saturday when I get off of work. If I can get to that day and be able to hold them tight, then that'll be my success. So it means a lot. Anything that can help anybody move on and get there is where I'm trying to be.
Well, I think it's commendable and brave and very honest of you to speak so freely and with such depth about an issue which I know is particularly rife in our community.
Mhm.
Addiction, mental illness, bipolar. There's a lot of artists, creative people that suffer from these challenges.
Yeah, it's I don't think it's till recent. I don't say recent. Well, I should Google different words. But yeah, recently, what was very hard for me. I mean, it was extremely hard when I first was diagnosed. Was I love drawing. I love creating. I love. It's just will always be a part of me. And like I said before, and on the website, my interview I did with you before on the article was my brother Christopher was, good God, he could just, man, his skill was just phenomenal. I'm like, dude, I want to be like that.
Mm.
He was so good, and man, he could have been. I don't know. I still honestly like he could have been one of the greats. He could have had such a career. He was so good, so good. I remember like he did a whale out of wood in this small little thing in wood shop. He did a half orca whale with a half of it, was cut in half, and the other half was like this mechanical thing. He did these two fighters fighting. I remember this drawing. I remember a lot of stuff that he did. He did a Star Destroyer and he did battle damage. I'm like, damn, this guy is good, and I want to be like him. But where was I going with this? Was is just, I don't know, just creating is if anything, it's just it's always a place to go to, and I think once you find your voice, uh, you can, I don't know, you can just try to move on, and it's that's what it's always been. It's always been trying to express yourself and I don't know, just try to get better. You know.
So you come and show with us. We do a show out in San Diego in this really cool brewery. Uh,
Wow.
it's packed full of people. We have
Yeah.
musicians. It's just full of energy. Great night. And we have some jurors in the house who are from the art world. We have educators. We have people who are critics or work for a variety of different magazines that come through and they look at all the work and then they cast their votes and they give them to Renee, and Renee, looks at them and reviews. And so it comes to that moment where, it's announced who the winner is and they say your name. Tell us about that moment.
Give me a minute. Give me a minute. That was you just laid out the past, and I was like, God. Okay, well, I'm gonna get to that, but what started that whole thing was before the show. I'd say, God, I don't even know, but I had a stroke, a small stroke. I can't even remember. I don't know, months or I really don't know the time. But I had a small stroke, and I remember like I was driving and I couldn't read. I remember looking at signs, and then I was so anyway. So I had a small little stroke, and it wasn't nothing I had to be hospitalized for, but I was told I had a stroke, and it was and I was supremely overweight. Like I was like 245, 250, and my divorce had hit me hard, very hard. I didn't even want to see my kids because I didn't want to see the shape that daddy was in. And then I got unemployed, and I drank for food. I drank 2 liter Pepsi. Like that's all I drank. That's all I ate. Like for days and days on end, and I rotted all my teeth out, all of them. So you come to a point where you need to get better, and then I got my teeth fixed. Fifth Avenue Dental Arts. Just I can't even tell you the beautiful people. But anyways, so I did that, and then I started exercising. I did a mile before work. I did a mile at lunch. I did 3 miles at Balboa Park every single day. I didn't care if it was raining. I got sick a couple of times, but damn it, I'm not going to break it. Then I was done with that. Then I got down from 250, 245 to 190 in like 4 months. Like just supreme dedication. And it wasn't to make myself look good. I wanted to feel good. If anything, I wanted my kids to have a father still. So that's why I did it. Then I came to a point like, well, what am I going to do now? You know, uh, I wasn't the best diet, but I was like, well, I want to create some work that means something, So I did the work that was on the show. I did my home collection, and then I did the other color pieces, which it was just like I didn't know what to do with them. So I'm like, I just taped them on the fence. But the home collection was a primary thing. So so I did those pieces, right? I didn't do it for the show. I just did them for me. And then I remember, and I was just throwing my work at different galleries and stuff. And then you guys contacted me, and then if I was dropping my kids off at home, and then I get a call from a gentleman. I don't remember his name. I'm very sorry. And my ex-wife was yelling at me about something. I don't know what it was as I was walking away. I was like, I'm literally on the phone, like walking down. I just literally just dropped them off. And God, I can't believe I'm telling the story, but I was like, yes, and I just kept saying that. I'm like, till I get out of earshot so I can have a conversation with this gentleman, because all I heard was conception arts. Finally, I get to my car where I can't hear her no more. She was annoyed about something. And the question was, I'm like, well, tell us about your work. I'm like, oh, thank God. Now it's a question that I have to answer. So I get attention. So that happened. And then I got to be a part of the show. And I was like, well, let me, again, I was homeless at the time. So sleeping in my car and, wherever I could. So home at that time, home meant so much to me. I'll say people take for granted, but you have a place to live. And when that's taken from you, it does something, It's like, God, for the love of God, I just want a kitchen sink, I just want a table. I want that to be mine. So my home collection meant everything to me at the time because it's where I wanted to go. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put this collection in the show, and I put them together, and I put did a physical, um, a little back piece on each one, and God, I practiced. You know, when I found out the length of the fence, I went to I don't know how many parks. I'm not kidding. I went to like so many parks, and I hung them up on different fences because I'm like, when I get there, God dang it, it's gonna look great. I'm gonna know what to do because I want to be prepared. I even had my toolbox with supplies. One of my pieces kept falling. It was a broken window. Everything was painted black, but the piece was on top of that, and it fell a couple times. And the glass kept breaking. I'm like, oh my God, I can't. This can't be happening. But so that was my journey. Is going from like having a stroke to being supremely overweight to doing some work that meant meaningful to the show, and then to Sam. Sam was there, and he's always been so supportive, and he was just there with me. And I'm at the front. You know, when you walk in, I was the first person you see. And I remember asking someone, I was like, yeah, where do I sit up? And they're like, oh, right here. And I'm like, I like looked up and I'm like, are you serious? I'm the first one you see. Oh my God. It was like, dude, this means something. So I put up and then I won. And then, well, they called up, they said, all right, you know, I'm not big crowds. Don't scare me, but, I like quiet. You know, it helps because when it gets too busy around, this starts to get affected, and hopefully I'll be able to conquer that. I'm still trying to. And so Sam was there. He was trying to text me, and I'm like, all right, if we gotta listen to who's gonna win. Not that was important to me. I just came there to show my kids that this is where Daddy came from. To this is where Daddy is. I wanted to show them and myself that if you want to do something, you can. But you gotta try, and whatever you need to get there, do it. An old boss, you know, told me, and I mentioned this. I said this earlier. It's like the only people who ask for help are the only people who get help are the ones who ask for it. So there I am standing with Sam, and I'm like, all right, well, moseyed on over, and then I'm in the back. I'm literally in the back because I was in the front. And then they announced my name, and I'm like, what? And I fell to the ground. Wasn't fall. And I like lose my body. But I dropped to the ground. I put my hands on my face, and I was like, this can't be happening. Because for me, and I know this is sort of self-deprecating, but I was like, who am I? Who am I? I mean, I'm nobody. I just draw. I just express myself the best that I can. The name's wrong. You guys got the name wrong. But I moved on up on the stage. I don't even remember what I said. I could have been like saying a recipe for brownies. I don't know. I really don't remember. But it was sort of not the end of a journey, but at least the end of that section of being 250 with your teeth rotten. I mean rotten. I would eat a banana and my teeth would chip. But I brought myself out of that darkness and into a better space. And then I win this, you know, I win the award. And I remember reading before you know, you want to do your research. So I researched you guys a little bit, and, you know, I it's on Facebook, and one of you, it might've been you, I'm not sure, but somebody was saying, you know, oh, what a scam and this and this. And I'm like, I can see where, you know, anybody would be a little bit paranoid, but, you know, you got to try. So I'm like, to anybody who would say anything bad about conception, I may not be this big time artist, but it was that journey and winning that award that showed me that I got there. I can get there. If I die tomorrow, then at least I know that I tried and I got there, and that anybody saw my work and saw some value in it. Not monetary value necessarily, but saw something out of it, and to award me to give me this award that saw some value in my work it meant everything to me. So when you guys called my name, I'm like, I still can't believe it, really. I still can't believe it, you know. So it was beautiful, and I thank you guys so much, because honestly, and I'm not trying to kiss your buddy here either, but uh, it's that kind of it's when somebody listened and saw your value that, you know what, this doesn't have to be the end. I can do other things. It took me forever to put my website together, and it's not for the lack of skill. I'm pretty technically savvy, but when you're down, and the first step is getting back up again. And so I've gone through many downs and ups, but winning that award was everything to me. And um, it's helped me be a better father and a better artist, and it showed me that, what I want to do next is I want to do more meaningful work. I want to express myself better. I want to create a website. I got to do flyers for my website and business cards. I want to help other people. I really do. I want to help people with mental illness, even if it's just talking. Maybe point you in the right direction on how to get there. You guys have been tremendous. I can't even tell you, tremendous inspiration with Coffee with Artist, and your other series is just, if anything, it's knowing that there's people out there that'll listen. And sometimes that's all we need. People who deal with mental illness. That's all we need. Don't judge, just listen. And you guys have been such an inspiration to want to keep moving. I'm like, even if I never saw you guys again, which thankfully I have, because you're so beautiful. You guys are all so beautiful. Just know that even what you do helps others. It really does. It really does. It helps me to move on. It helps others to, even at times when I think that my work is, even it's just for me. Um, well, I'll say I'm sort of done with that, but I wanna move on from. I worked on myself. I recovered from my stroke. I did this. I'm at that point where I'm like, I want to help people. So I'm still trying to find that way to get there. But in the meantime, I'll just be creating I don't know, creating more work, and hopefully getting better, and showing my kids that Avery, I love you, buddy, and baby girl Aviana, who my beautiful baby girl, did these pieces right here. So I needed to showcase my baby girl. Yeah, if even it's just showing them that even if times get hard, ask for help. Just try. So sorry.
Well, you said you were looking for ways to help others. I think just your, openness and your honesty today is going to help many.
I
Um,
hope so. I hope so.
I'm already seeing a lot of comments here about, just the value of your words and how inspiring they are. And, this will, have no doubt that this will reverberate and, be shared and be consumed and be watched by many and will help others. So
I
I
hope so.
thank you tremendously for being so brave. And, we're
Thank you.
always grateful that you are part of the big crazy conception family. And
It's beautiful, beautiful.
we love keeping up with you and keeping up with your work. And I know you're going to do amazing things. I know you're going to do wonderful things.
Thank you.
So before we wrap it up, does anybody have any questions for the wonderful Andrew? Do
Oh
jump
my
in
God.
comments. I'm going to read a couple of these comments before
Sure.
we take any questions. So let's see. Jan says, Andrew, thank you for sharing your life story. Your art, your life is empowering. You are a grace. Thank you.
Is that my sister? Because my sister's name is Jen.
No, this is Jan Phillips. Jan is one of our wonderful, amazing, long-term viewers and dear friend.
Well, much love to you, Jen. Thank you very much. Very kind. Very kind.
And Emma, who was yesterday's guest, said, such an interesting interview on mental health. You are brave, you are bold, and you are loved. Inspiring. If you could shut your eyes and create your dream piece collection, what would it be? Question, Em.
Oh, good God. That's a heavy one, Em. Let's see. If I could close my eyes and create my dream piece collection. Damn it. Emma, curse you. No, love you, love you. My dream piece collection is it would have to be just as a parent who being taken from the children. I adore my kids. I adore them. So my dream collection would be I want my kids to know that someday when I'm gone, to look at my work and go, God, this was about me. My daddy loved me, and I know that if I was gone today, that without a doubt, I know that my kids know that daddy loves them without a doubt. So my dream collection would be a final reminder to my kids that daddy loved them, that they're the best things that I ever created, ever. I'll never be able to top that. So my dream collection would be about them to, it'd be a final farewell to my children, to say, hey, daddy loved you. So that would be my that's what it would be. Good God, Emma, that hit hard.
We love you. You're beautiful, spirit, soul.
Thank you.
You're a good dad.
Babies.
I know you're going to watch this one day and be super proud. And I know that this is just the beginning for you, Andrew. So hang on in there and, just keep putting that work out. I think there's another question here. Let's see. Having grown up with mental illness all around me and battling my own demons, what you shared is profoundly inspirational and helpful. These challenging times make it difficult to find our inner strength. Love yourself. You are strong. You're beautiful and a brilliant soul. And that's from another fellow artist, Rachel Romano.
Rachel, beautiful. Love you, hon. Love you. Love you. Yeah, it's hard, it's just in terms of, again, battling mental illness. You can have everything. You can have money. You could have a family. You can have whatever means success to you. Mental illness doesn't care. It's whether it's a disability or whatever, it doesn't care. You can have everything, but to have all that taken from you, to make you feel so small, like you're not worth anything. I remember when Robin Williams took his life, and an old coworker of mine, who I was very mad at when he said this, he had said, "God, what a coward." And I was like, nobody knew I was bipolar at the time. And I was like, dude, you don't know what he went through. You don't know his demons. How dare you? So just, I know a lot of people, when, they'll see me down or whatever, and it's fine. You want to give people their space, but please, if you ever see anybody having a tough time, don't say, I'm going to leave them alone, because I say more often than not, they just want somebody to ask how you're doing. We might brush you off and say, I'm fine, but it's at least that step of having to ask somebody, are they okay? But yeah, thank you, Rachel. Thank you. I'm going to jabber forever if we keep going. Sorry.
No, please don't ever apologize. You're brave. This is from Arjen. You are a brave, talented soul.
Thank you, love. I love you. Love you, Jen. Thank you very much. Beautiful.
Wonderful. Just making sure there's nobody we missed here. All right. Well, Andrew, I am so touched and just moved by this conversation, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming here with just bravery and willingness to talk about these things that are, challenging. And I know that this is going to reverberate. I know this is going to move and change and inspire others. So keep doing what you're doing. We need you. The art world.
Thank you.
We need your stories. Your kids need you. And we are always here whenever you want to chat art or life or whatever.
Of course. I promise next time I'll cry before, so it's not less so emotional.
Listen, you're not the first person that's cried on this show, and I'm
Yeah,
sure
I know. Yeah.
I
But
was. I'm weepy, so look, you're incredibly brave and honest, and I really really appreciate everything that you shared today. So thank you.
thank you. I just wanna close out with again. I'm not trying to plug myself or anything, but if anybody ever needs to talk, I mean, about anything, um, I'm not talking commissioning a piece. I'm really not. If anybody ever needs to talk, just go through my website or find me on Instagram, and it's just there to. I just want to help somebody else get through it, because I've been through it and I'm still going through it. But you can do it alone, but it's gonna be a hard journey. So just ask for help, and we can do this together.
And I've just added your website. It's artbyandrewdiaz.com.
Oh, thank you, love. Thank you. I check my analytics every day. I'm like, oh my god, I got 8 people that looked at my site. Oh my god.
I have a feeling you're going to be having a few more. So
I hope so. I hope so. Again, it's just my goal is just to help others. I mean, and I mean this. I'm not trying to say this because he's over in the next room, but if it wasn't for my one of my best friends, Sam, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for my kids, I wouldn't be here. You got to surround yourself with people that listen and don't judge and just create. My daughter, I helped my kids with their homework on the other day. My daughter, it broke my heart a little bit, but she said, it's just because of this pandemic. I know this because they're always inside. Their mom doesn't let them out anywhere, which is good. Rather have your health than get this virus. She said that art's not her thing no more, and that broke my heart a little bit. But I understand where she's coming from, and I hope that's not true because again, it doesn't have to be anything big, but as long as she's expressing herself and good God, I want to get one of her. God, I hate cameras and stuff. You don't know where to go. I would love to get one of her pieces tattooed on me because good God, I have so many. This is I actually have. God, I don't be showing my armpit on the camera. I actually have my Mr. Constructed right here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's my piece. So it means a lot. So yeah. So thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Conception Arts. I was gonna get your guys' logo tattooed on me, but no, I'm serious. Like when I won the show, and then the house, I want to get a like that's good God, I hate these things. This is my the first good God, there we go. First pocket watch, the first Father's Day present my ex-wife gave me. That's the time my son was born, and that's for my baby girl.
Wow.
And I wanted to get the house in between to show that we're a family. We're not together no more, but we're still a family. But okay, I'm a jabber. I love you guys. Thank you again. If anybody ever wants to talk about anything, it doesn't have to be about art. I hope so because I love it. But I just want to say thank you, and I love you guys.
Thank you, Andrew. Such a pleasure. Mwah.
Love you, Rachel.
Bye, guys. We will be back again tomorrow, 11 a.m. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.